The purpose of this video is to demonstrate the estimation of forage production. The estimation will occur in a mountain shallow ecological site, which is a key or reference area of uniform vegetation. We are standing in the Snake River province in eastern Oregon, and we are at an elevation of 4,700 feet, and we are looking out across a mountain shallow 12 to 16 inch precipitation zone ecological site. This site is fairly level, and as you pan around and look at the surrounding landscape, you can see that it is made up of rolling topography. On the north slopes would be a north ecological site in the 12 to 16 inch precipitation zone, and it will have actually higher production than this shallow site, which has a shallow soil depth to it. And then as you swing to the south, you will find that it would have a shallow south ecological site, which would be dominated primarily with more blue bunch than Idaho fescue. The site that we are standing on is made up primarily of Idaho fescue. The yellow shrub that you see that is showing up every so often, that is a horsebrush, and the blue flower is a lupine, and the sagebrush is a mountain sage, Artemisia tridentata, subspecies Vassiana. And this area has been burned within the last 10 years, and it has removed much of the sagebrush cover, but young sagebrush plants are starting to enter back into the plant community. Production is used as a basic measure of site potential. Production is the weight of the above ground plant material on a unit of land at a given point in time. What we are going to do today in this example is to illustrate how you would measure production. And production is going to be measured in terms of pounds of forage per acre or kilograms per hectare. And what we are going to use today is a hoop. This is a 1/10 meter hoop that will be placed on the ground, and we will clip the forage that is located inside the hoop, place it in a bag, take the bag back to our office. We will dry it, and then we will be able to weigh and find out how much production is actually in the site. This would require us, if we were to do the entire site as we should sample it, since this would be identified as a key area, this would take probably around 25 to 30 sacks that would have to be clipped, or plots that would have to be clipped, to get a representative picture of what the production is. And where we would sample is that across this area we would identify a uniform population, which would be identified as our key area or our designated management area, and that would be used to represent a typical production value for the rest of the area that we are standing upon. If you switched down the hill and you got into the different ecological site, you would have the same question that you would have to answer again. And so when you are doing this on a pasture basis, you will normally end up doing it for the major ecological sites, and then that will be assumed for minor areas that are within the plot or within the ecological site. So for our example, we'll just simply drop our plot down. This would be located randomly within the area. And what we are going to do then is you organize your plants inside it to make sure that you've got the boundary of the plot has been cleared of vegetation that is pinned down or either inside the plot or outside the plot. The way that we're going to define our production is we're going to say anything that is rooted inside the plot is going to be production from the plot. There is a second way that this can also be defined, which you will find more true in the Great Plains area than you will here in the Pacific Northwest, where they will look at what is hanging over the plot as also the production over that specific area. In one case you are defining a volume, in the other case you are defining what is growing from the ground within the plot. So they are answering essentially two different kinds of questions. To do this, you clip the vegetation down to ground level. And the vegetation that we have here is Idaho fescue, which is this part right here. Growing inside the Idaho fescue is squirreltail, Cytanian hystrix. And growing around that is little sandberg bluegrass, Poa secunda, that you'll have inside the site. So we have 3 different species that are all growing on this particular site that we're going to clip. And so to get started, you start clipping and gathering the material together, taking it down to the top of the crown. You do not want to take materials that are several years old. What you are after is the material that grew this year. You're looking for current annual production. Then we will place that material in a sack. And then we research the plot to see if we have any additional materials that we should be getting that we have missed. Leaving the old leaves from the previous year that might be in here, leaving that on the ground. But this is the way that the plot should look at the end of the clipping. We did not clip anything that is hanging out over the plot edge. We're only taking the material that is rooted inside it. After we have dried this, and we will dry it in an oven so that we drive off all the moisture out of the plant, and we will have this down to 1 or 2% moisture content rather than letting it air dry, which might mean you have 10 to 15% moisture in the plot. It'll be oven dried down to a weight, and then every gram of biomass that we have in this sack represents 89 pounds to the acre, based on the fact that this area is a 10th meter square. So we can convert that to pounds per acre by multiplying every gram by 89 as a conversion factor to get it to pounds per acre. The clip plot should capture the current annual production and should not be clipped below the crown of the plant. And this is our plot now that has been clipped to ground level. You can see that we have not gouged the earth in any area. You can see the top of the crown. You can actually see some little ends of the stems that are there. The intent is not to kill any part of the plant. What you're trying to do is get an estimate of how much the production was that was being produced off of that plant. You can also see that we have not captured anything that's hanging over the plot. So we are just purely trying to get it down to about ground level. And the ground is not even, of course, and so you have some areas that are going to be higher and some areas that are going to be lower. And you may actually have a little bit of stubble left, but this is a clean plot at this point in time. We did not pick up any of this material because it was produced last year and has not fully decomposed, but it would not be our production from this year. And so that is what a clear plot should look like. As we go across this landscape, we would have anywhere from 20 to 40 of these that we would be doing, and we would add those together to get a good representation of the area, a good representation of the variation in the vegetation that is here, and get an accurate estimation of how much biomass was actually produced. Data forms and more detailed information can be located within the Oregon Resources Monitoring Guide, the Rancher's Guide to Improved Grazing. It is published by the Oregon Cattlemen's Association and is a valuable tool as reference material.